Alright, look right here. This is the sign that I made. It was out of granite. I made it. I'm just gonna read it right now, and then I'm gonna go back on my porch and talk. But it says, "Welcome to the Isaac J.C. Rollinson driveway. Built in February 2013. The year by noble gesture, he raised the road for us all." And then this here, 1977 MGB. And I restored, and I'm gonna go sit on my porch here and finish this video that I want to talk about obsolescence and something else, but I'm gonna take pause here and think about what that was. So you know, this is going to be have to be kind of in a hurry because it's starting to get dark out and I haven't turned on the lights yet. But I'm racing against time, as I am today, so I am for my entire future. I understand that. No, but I watched a thing on YouTube, a little bit ago about reminded me about the 70s. It was like 100 pictures from the 70s, and one of those pictures was fireflies. I don't know if fireflies are extinct today or not, because I haven't seen any fireflies for a long time. But when I was a kid, at nighttime, fireflies would come out and they'd be flashing with their like neon kind of yellow kind of thing in their tail of their body that would flash. And even if you caught one and you pulled off the tail and put it in a jar, it would continue flashing. We used to catch them and put them in jars because they'd keep flashing. Today we got here in Florida, we got love bugs, which were a failed experiment that escaped from the university here. Half mosquito and half fly. They get all over your cars. It's like a totally opposite of a not a love bug, but I don't see many love bugs either, but I did see one today. Love bugs are actually really good for your garden. But the firefly, I'm just saying, I don't know if they still exist up north or not. They don't exist here in Florida. We got I don't know, whatever those things are called, I can't remember. Love bugs. We call it love bugs because a lot of times they get two of them stuck together like they're mating, and they stay stuck together. But times have really changed since I was a kid. Like we used to go out and play Statue Man, twirling each other around and then make a person fly off from the twirl, and when they finished tumbling or rocking or whatever they're doing, and they hold themselves a still position in the form of a statue, and then you had to guess what they were. We used to play flashlight tag, at nighttime, dark out, pitch black, except if you had a flashlight, you could look, and people would be hiding, and you tag them with a flashlight. And then you have to tell secrets of where somebody might be and stuff like that, Look, and I don't know if people do that anymore. I know times change. When I was a kid, I had this little projector my dad got me. Had all kinds of like, kind of like, they weren't movies in today's standards, but they're like slides about like, that long. And they would have pictures, and then you would have a record that go along with that picture thing as the record played along. I can't remember if it pushed down by itself or if you had to push it down to the next slide, but it show you a picture and used your imagination. Okay. You just had a picture, a record telling a story, and use your imagination. And then when I think about, like they showed pictures of a lot of stuff that I recall and everything, and I realize how different, times are, and people don't grow up today like they did when I was a kid. And I'm just gonna say, we went outside and imagined and created things. Maybe kids do that today, but in some other way, not the same way we did it. I know that. Like cartoons, well, we waited for Saturday morning to see cartoons, and then we watched cartoons for, at least a couple hours. And if you wanted to watch other stuff, like came on only on Saturday, you might watch that too. But what we watched was, it was like our mythology. It like inspired us to be a certain way. Some of it was nostalgic. Like, I don't know, we used to watch Happy Days. That was nostalgic when I was growing up to my mom's era, see? The sock hops and stuff like that. And I watched Wonder Years. They didn't show anything about Wonder Years, but I remember Wonder Years, and it was about a guy, a kid, when he was a child, and those were his Wonder Years. And so my point is basically, that I grew up with this myth of wonder. And when I say myth, I'm not saying, like, I'm not giving any kind of connotation of anything that's fake. Like a myth, like, I don't know. I mean, like consider a myth like some kind of fictional fake thing that's irrelevant. No, and I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about the music, the cartoons, the shows. They were all myth. They were all my myths. See, they taught me, and they showed me what life was all about and how to maneuver in life and everything like that. The easy bake oven. See, a lot of stuff they don't have anymore. Little girls could have their easy bake oven, and when we're playing house, they had their own easy bake oven in their house, and we used to play house. Hey. Look, times have changed. I mean, if you go way back, like to the 1800s and stuff like that, they got pictures of 13-year-old boys holding a gun, serving in war. All right. I remember seeing a picture of an Indian woman, way back, because some of these pictures I've seen went all the way back to like the early 1800s. And a small Indian woman with a basket for a person to sit on, and this French person was sitting in the basket, and she was just a little woman, and she was the ride for that guy. All right, so that just goes to show you. You talk about the tortures people endured. That's another subject I ain't gonna go into. Times have changed. And when it comes to this, that MG out there, and my youngest son Isaac, see, this is not meant to be like any kind of slight or anything toward my son, because it's not, absolutely not. the impression I want to make, is just a phenomena, and I'm kind of like a phenomenological studier of life, and I put things in their context. I don't impose context on something and then try to make meaning on it. I study the situation in the context in which it occurs. That's part of being truthful. Like, when I learned how to study the Bible, for example, I learned the historical, contextual, linguistic method. You had to study something within the context of its history, within the context of its language, the language of the day, what the words meant of the day, how they were used in the day. So you can't twist it and try to make it say something that it ain't intending, because the language of the day's changed, and you can't impose on today's language yesterday's language, because yesterday's language has got to be understood in yesterday's context. And historical, contextual, grammatical. And then, you study the actual grammar in which things are written in, the grammar of the day, the linguistics of the day, stuff like that. I think there is another part of it that we included too, but it's been a long time since I've been studying what they call hermeneutics. All right. And but I've taken whole classes on just, I took a whole class on just the subject of hermeneutics. I studied a long time just to understand the languages, Hebrew and Greek, what I studied. And so those learnings I have always, and I learned that early on, or like right after high school, started studying that, and because I became a Christian, again, in my last year or year and a half or maybe 2 years of high school. I gave my life back to the Lord. That was my thinking back in those days. I thought differently than I do today. Operating out of a mindset that was in the context of a different experience, a different understanding, in the context of just coming out of fundamentalism and my whole everything. But that's not where I want to go, so I'm not going to belabor that point. But that 1977 MGB out there, I got it from my son, and I thought, wow, man, this is the coolest thing in the world, because when I was in high school, I bought a Triumph Spitfire 1500, from my uncle Buzz, and I just took over the payments, and then I gave him a little bit of money at the end. But I was working and stuff already. I could make the $125 a month payments. And I graduated in 1981, I think. Yeah, 1981. So that's how far back I'm talking. Graduated high school in 81. And but see, I just thought, it was a convertible, and I did a whole video. My friend Charlie Dissy, who worked for me for a while when I wasn't making enough money from the company that paid me the most money. I wasn't getting that many jobs, but so what I did is I paid him. I just gave him half the check, and he would do the work. It's kind of a 50-50 cut, because it was my operation, and I had to jump through the oops to get the job, but they weren't giving me enough work to float my boat, and he worked for me because he wasn't working, but he was smart. And he wanted to be a graphic designer. Now I think he's still a truck driver. Making good money though. I mean, and I think starting his own business. He's always been a industrious kind of person. But he did that video. It's on my channel. I think it's called mgb.flv because I think it's a FLV file. I don't know, something from I think Adobe or something, But he did it. I put the storyline together and enlisted the people who were working with me. It was a whole big project, restoring that car. We put a lot of energy into it, but in the end, I brought it to my son and everything, and even wrapped it up like in a tarp and everything, and put a birthday thing. I mean, not a birthday. Well, I think it was birthday. I don't know. Ribbon around it, I think it might have been his birthday. I give it to him, but he drove it and stuff. The mom said he couldn't have it because it didn't have airbags. So, that worked. But look, and then one time he told me that he thought I wasted my money. So yeah, well, I still got the car. Even though I don't run now, because I did supercharge the car. Put a supercharger on that thing, like driving a motorcycle. Hit that gas pedal and wham! But the rings blew, and they're just sitting there now. As I can't take it in the shop and have it fixed because they say I got to pull the motor and take the motor to a motor shop. They don't pull motors. Look, man, it's not the same as it used to be, all right? Me and my friends, and my son's friends, came from Florida to Virginia. I'm not in Virginia, I'm in Florida again. But to Virginia, and helped me pull the motor out of that thing, and had the motor rebuilt. Or we rebuilt the motor. Had one guy who actually really did the motor rebuild, but we pulled the motor out and he had a thing in his basement. Look, these were efforts, a lot of combined efforts that my son, he didn't really appreciate. He didn't really appreciate that kind of sentimental kind of experience of that car because he never really had the car, and his mindset was, I guess, on a more modern car. And so, I did then later on, I sent him, I gave him in a wallet, I don't know, a certain amount of money, $100 bills. I think it was like 16 $100 bills or something like that, I don't really remember exactly, in a wallet. And he sent the money back to me a few months later. I'd already forcefully had to relocate to Florida. I mean, I came to Florida to fix my place, and my boss told me to stay. Yeah, I had no job to go back to. I stayed. That's how I got in Florida. But I was sad because I was felt obligated to give each of my kids like their first car or something, or at least help them. Well, he sent the money back to me. He said he wanted to work for it. His mom, I felt, didn't want him to receive anything from me. That's the way I took it. But the thing is, it leaves me with a sense of obsolescence. Like, my dreams and stuff like that, been devastated so many times. I got a tree house back there, I actually made for grandchildren, and no grandchildren ever played in it. It became a dog den, and now my dogs really don't even go up there because I've kind of abandoned it. But I'm gonna refix it up, and I'm gonna add something out of my garage, and I'm gonna make a music studio and everything. I already got a soundboard and everything. Yeah, so my dreams don't die. But if nobody wants to participate with me in my dream, can't help that. I ain't gonna stop me. That's all I got to live for. You know, you'll find out, you know, in your own life and do your own assessment, you know. What do you got to live for? Yeah? You got anything to live for? Well, if you got something to live for, then live for it. Yeah. But, you know, I realize I can't impose my admirations, especially not my dreams, of course. I mean, you know, my dreams are my dreams, but, you know, I have admirations, see. I can't impose my admirations on somebody else. And if I do something based on my admirations, and say give it as a gift like I did to my son Isaac, if that don't meet him, then I gotta accept that, you know. You know, I don't have any kind of resentment or anything about that, you know, like oh, you didn't appreciate my gift? Yeah. Oh, what's wrong with you? You know, no. No, that ain't my thinking. Sometimes that person could take a blow in the head. Like when I thought about that knife going in my neck on another video, you know, that when I realized, when I thought about that knife and I'm pushing that knife in, you know, and I realized that would have basically probably cut my head off. That thing, so sharp, like a blow in the head. All right, well, sometimes you have an experience, you know, like a knife cuts in you. Like a blow in the head, or a blow in the chest, or wherever. I mean, you know, a blow in the heart. But these are just lived experiences, see? And we live out of our experiences in life. And we have to, what do you call, like in the military, you know, you gotta adapt. You gotta improvise, and you gotta overcome. You gotta adapt to the situation and understand it. And then you gotta improvise. You gotta figure out what you're gonna do. You gotta be resourceful. You gotta look at what you can do, what the possibilities of what you can do. And be resourceful, and then overcome. Right? Well, might not be able to change the world. Some people actually do come up with ideas to change the world. But, I mean, I'm just talking about, you know, changing your life. Look, there's a proverb in the Bible that says, how's it go? The mightiest person of all is I can't remember exactly how it states it, but it's a proverb in one of the proverbs in the book of Proverbs in the middle of the Bible. It's mighty, stronger is he that can control himself than he that control the whole city. All right, it's something like that, you know. A person who's the strongest who can control himself. Person who can control himself is more mighty than the person who can control the whole city. That's how hard it is sometimes to control yourself. Self-regulation. Okay? Look, man, you're gonna get chopped up. All right? You gotta put the pieces back together. That's why I'm happy for the myth that I had when I was a little kid, you know. We understood that. You know, we didn't have all the safety kind of regulations and stuff you have today. I don't even think they got a merry-go-round anymore. In fact, you know, there's parks around here. I don't see any parks like what I grew up with, you know, monkey bars, merry-go-rounds, swings that you could jump off of. Well, they might have swings, but some of the other stuff, you know, the people who fall and break their arms, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. Throwing darts in the ground and stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of things. You look back in the 70s. If you look back in the 70s, you understand, here comes Sally. She might knock everything over. So, it was Sally. There's Sally. See? There's Sally. Anyway, look, and that, I should say that epitaph or whatever I put out there, I had it engraved in granite. I paid a cemetery guy, to do it. Bought stone from them, had them engrave it. I don't know, cost more than $100 for the engraving and stone. But, he sent me the money back. He said he wanted to work for it. So that's a noble gesture. I ain't gonna argue against that. I mean, look, when I was a kid, I was kind of the same way, Felt kind of like a pride in what I worked for, and I worked. And, but, we had a problem here, when it rained out a lot, the driveway and stuff flooding, my daughter used to get stuck. I knew a guy that did paving and stuff, I went to church with him. I paid him to come and a few $1,000, actually the money that I sent my son. Well, I think it was a few $1,000. I don't really know how much money I gave my son in that wallet anymore. Maybe it was a few $1,000. I don't know. But I mean, it was real. It was real money. And he gave it back to me in the mail, and in the form of a check or something. But that's why I read that epitaph, by noble gesture. See, that was noble, by noble gesture. My son Isaac raised the road for us all. Okay? I used that money to raise my driveway and put lime rock, and so, give my son credit for that. And I don't hold nothing against him for not wanting the car, because after all, today the car ain't even running. It would have just been bagging. It would have hurt me to see him junk it. Like, I got $20,000 in that car. Seriously. Man, I would have hated to see him junk it. But, yeah, that video's on my channel. Look at it. It's pretty cool. Drift. That song Drift was written by Charlie and, his brothers and his dad. They used to all play together. Well, look, I know it's getting like at 28 minutes, 22 seconds now. I just got to say that, sometimes I feel obsolete. And, the thing that kind of, falls on me descends on me like a dark cloud is my obsoleteness, out of touchness. I'm not really out of touch. Try to keep up on stuff, but my spirit and stuff, and I'm a relic of the past. See, ain't nothing special about me. Now, I'm a product of the era that I grew up in, and when I say there's nothing special about me, that's an understatement. Okay, there's a lot special about me, but it's it's got to be understood in context, and you'll never see it if you don't understand the context of my life, for example. It's easy to brush it aside. But see, I also appreciate the context of other people's lives, There's a lot of special people, more special people than me. And even today there's a lot of special people. And I try to pay attention to them. But I guess the point of really what I'm trying to say in this here talk is that while I feel obsolete to some extent, but I also feel like generative, like I was talking in my last talk. I feel like I'm in a generative state, and I just gotta say that I put on these sort of glasses through which I see things. The glasses of my learning. How I interpret stuff. And I still believe I got a good handle on reality. And like today, Donald Trump is he used the FUCK word, and they bleeped it out. Israel and Iran, they don't know what the F they're doing. All right, well, you know what? I can resonate with that. I appreciate that, even though I never really liked him. He might have been the best thing for the United States and the world. How do I know? Even though I don't like the guy. All right, mass population put him in office. All right, I subject myself to that. I reconsider, the fact that a lot of dumb people in the United States. But I don't know, if there is a God, the will of God is still going to be done. I don't mean to say like if there is a God. I actually believe there is a God. I just sometimes, it seems like there's nobody minding the store, like the whole world is a store, and God left. That's the way I used to feel a lot. God might have been here, but he left a long time ago. But now I'm taking a little bit different of an approach, so kind of starting to see things in a little different way now, based on the stuff that I've been listening to and learning, or watching, analyzing, stuff like that. But all right, all right, bye.